all Canadian families, we are on the Titanic. The iceberg hasn't hit yet, so we're not sinking. If we don't shift course, that iceberg is coming for us.
I'm not planning on leaving. I'm fighting. We want to make this country incredibly great.
We begin to see that it really isn't about diversity. It is about punishing the people who perform beyond the mean.
For people who don't care, where do you see Canada going?
Oh, it's catastrophic. It is that bad.
What is the carbon tax doing to lower carbon emissions?
Exactly.
I love this country. I was born in this country. I believe in what this country stands for. I believe in its people. I believe as a place opportunity for all to come and live, but the path that we're on is not working. And we are not going to be what we're supposed to be if we continue along this path.
Yeah. Citizens, welcome.
What's going on,
Good to
everybody?
have you guys all joining us here today. That intro I said every single time gets me so jacked up. I imagine a day that we're going to create an intro where it's like, this is the single greatest country we've ever lived in. There's nothing greater. Everyone needs to live here. There is no iceberg. We diverted it.
Yeah. The iceberg is behind Canada.
And we are forging ahead. That's the new intro that will come once this country is in that position. And we look forward to that position.
Yeah, man. Lots to talk about today.
Yeah, there is. There's been a lot that's happened.
Lots of development since the last show we did with Donald Trump putting some pressure on Canada,
Lots
to say the
of
least.
pressure.
The Liberal government, I think, is definitely feeling it.
25% more pressure.
Exactly. Yep. That's we'll talk through that, what that means. If you have no idea what we're talking about, well, we will get to it. Donald Trump is talking about putting a 25% tariff on all imported goods from Canada to the U.S.
That's crazy.
If we don't get our act together, essentially, when it comes to border and crime and fentanyl stuff, essentially it's border stuff, right?
Yeah.
Did you see Danielle Smith? She wrote a letter to Prime Minister Trudeau, a public letter, just stating obviously her concern. I'm sure all premiers are very
About
concerned.
the oil cap?
Just saying how the Keystone and how much oil we send over there, and the type of oil that we do send to them, they don't get much else, and basically be stupid to put a 25% cap. Anyways, we'll get that to a moment. Parliament. We were talking about Parliament earlier today. It's in filibuster mode right now, which is basically a delay that's been happening over the last month.
It's kind of gone under the radar. That's something that, which is such a strange thing. And there's a lot of background here, a lot of story here. So the reason this is kind of rising back up to the top right now is that Prime Minister Trudeau is proposing a 5% holiday, so a 2-month 5% GST cut holiday on all sorts of essentials. They call it stocking stuffer essentials as well. They're calling it. So like small things, children's clothing, on food, I think some restaurants. And so it's across a lot of things. So they're essentially lifting the GST for 2 months, which we could talk about all day about the philosophy idea of that, where it's like,
but what does that accomplish?
Exactly. We're perpetuating an issue with we're not solving any real problems here. That's why people are giving him a lot of criticism on saying he's trying to buy votes. The other thing that's partnering it on this 2-month GST holiday is a $250 check for anybody who's made over or under $150,000. I think it's household income. Yeah. And so they're anticipating that that's going to go to 18 million Canadians, roughly half the country.
How much money do you think Canada has in the bank? I know it's not as simple as that.
But that's the real question. Is I was listening to CTV this morning, and CTV was saying, like, can Canada afford this? And the person they asked that to laughed and said, well, first define afford.
Exactly. Define afford, right? If we're in this idea of modern monetary policy, you can just make up your money and keep accumulating debt and hope your citizens pay taxes and you keep going. Define afford. Yes. Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, and that's exactly
Can we afford this?
Well, they're anticipating a deficit on the budget of 40 billion. So I almost said million, which is just 40 imagine billion. If you could build budgets with that much leeway.
I know.
What's the point of building it? Oh, that's another thing. So a $40 billion deficit on the budget. So they're going to miss it by 40 billion. Now they're saying it's going to be $47 billion that they're going to miss the budget. And this 5% GST thing is going to cost the country $2.4 billion, I think it is. by cutting the 5% GST on all this stuff. So again, a Ford means nothing in what this government has shown us. A Ford is not a word that is used properly.
I'm just trying to find how many years in a row we have been in deficits from our budgets. Like, have we?
Yeah,
I think we've been negative for how many years in a row? If you guys know and you're watching the comments, just trying to look this up now, but we have been. Okay, so 2021, we had a deficit of 14.9% of GDP. 21 to 22, the budgetary deficit was 3.6% of GDP.
I'm finding out as well.
Yeah, so it seems to be quite a bit, but it always seems like we've been in a deficit, really, since all the way back actually to 2014. But huge, and obviously during COVID.
2014. What was in 2014?
It was a change of government. 2015.
Not the current government. That's my point.
but to be fair though, like Harper also had deficits the previous 4 years, 2009 to. So that was also the crash of the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. So there was deficits. Yep. That is where actually Stephen Harper, he would explain that is the time that you actually want to go into a deficit and inject cash into an economy. When you had such a world financial crisis like we did in the crash of 2008,
of course, is
that to stimulate your economy to get back, which if you actually look at this chart.
Same with COVID too. I'm
going to put this on the TV so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Little economics lesson, everybody, as we're kind of educating ourselves too. Did that join the TV? So you can see there, Jared. I'll turn it sideways. So this graph is showing, right, in 2008, 2009, that's where we all of a sudden we put up a big deficit, and then it was reduced back to zero, essentially, so that the theory of injecting cash into our economy actually worked because the deficit got smaller.
Turn the whole graph upside down, and then we're in a healthy situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
flip the TV.
This is the wrong graph. Like this is just not how it should be.
And then we can see it progressively getting worse. So, anyways, all that to say, what were we just talking about before? The point of
spending philosophy,
spending, the budgets,
and the whole idea about the budget and affordability,
and handing out. So this idea of not having GST. And HST, was it? Or is that provincial somewhere?
HST, which is in Quebec.
Okay. So not having that, it's just such a ploy of trying to put money in Canadians' pockets. And at this point, it's like handing scraps to someone who's absolutely starving.
Well, and then also in April, the carbon tax is increasing. In April, again.
I know.
So come April, we're going to see...
Have you seen kickback in your life from the carbon tax? Isn't that what that's what they keep saying.
Kick down, like kick me while we're down. Is that it? No, I don't know a single person who's gotten a kickback.
If you've gotten carbon tax kickbacks, because Liberals have repeatedly said they get it's putting money back in the pockets of Canadians.
That's what their line is constantly.
No, it is. I was calculating again last week how much this is actually affecting my life, the carbon tax. And it's actually, so from my calculation, carbon tax is now about $1,000 a month for me personally.
A month. Crazy.
And I was doing some research on how much that has increased for food. Obviously, there's inflation involved, but there's carbon tax in that. There's carbon tax in fuel. There's carbon tax in my utilities at home. There's carbon tax pretty much through everything that you do now. But I was talking with a friend who works in oil and gas, and we're talking about how, he goes, do you know how much of your fuel bill is actually carbon tax?
Your actual.
And I said, I'm guessing this much. And he just points up. He goes, it's way more, because he goes, it's tax upon tax upon tax upon tax. On your bill, it might show up as whatever percentage, but all the previous carbon tax for it to get to the pumps has already increased the cost, which isn't included on the consumer receipt, right? So the cost to import, the cost to refine, the cost to get it off the ground, the cost to transport, all those things, it's added. So that adds to the cost that the back end has, which obviously they want to make a profit. So it is just accumulating over and over and over again. So
I just quickly asked ChatGPT to how many taxes do we have on our gas in Alberta, and there's the federal excise tax, which is 10% a liter, the federal carbon tax, which is 17.4 cents per liter, following its increase in April 1st, and it's going to increase again this coming April. So I don't think we know exactly how much it's going up to. Okay. Provincial fuel tax, which is another 13%, and then the GST, the 5%. So you are at 10, 20, 30, 40 cents plus the 5%, whatever your total is, so plus 5%. So you're sitting close to 50 cents a liter on taxes at this moment, which is nuts. And that's, again, carbon's going to go up too. So you're probably sitting around 55, 60, if I had to guess, per liter.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's just getting out of control. So all this to say, you guys, if you're listening or you know people who maybe get sucked into the idea of, I get a kickback check, or sweet, no GST for however long. Those things are just, in my opinion, ploys.
For sure
they aren't helping Canadians. They're actually hurting Canadians, because guess what? We do need to pay tax and have financial responsibility so that we can properly invest in our economy. Yeah. But doing that type of thing, not only are you increasing the amount of money you're putting out, but you're stopping money that's coming in. I never thought I would complain about not paying tax, but I'm just saying it's such a ploy.
Well, and if you could put a politician on truth serum and say, what's the point of the carbon tax? They'll never answer it this way, but this is what it is for. It is to make it painful enough that you eventually stop using it. That's why it's incrementally going up. They want to tax it so that, and then incentivize the alternative, which would be, I guess, electric vehicles. So that's why there's rebates on electric, rebates on all these alternatives, which are we've gotten into it before. They're still supplied by burning of coal and et cetera.
Yeah.
So there's still a carbon footprint, but that's why they're taxing this and incentivizing this. Is they're essentially trying to get you to stop doing it. But the thing that they're not realizing is we don't have the infrastructure set in place to choose the alternatives that aren't really great alternatives already. When you look at the electric batteries, lithium, cobalt mines, windmills, longevity, needing oil and carbon to make windmills, oil to produce the generators that the windmills
are electrical grid to supply the electricity needed
to make solar panels. You need oil, you need carbon, you need it all. So it's very silly and it's very premature. If the technology was true, good, clean, and actually working, then we'd all be on board.
Such a critical mass that it actually was able to support the population of Canada.
Yeah.
Not even to mention the U.S., which is over 10 times larger.
Which is why nuclear should be explored and pushed to a place where it is used, because it's so efficient, so long lasting. Yes, there's a lot of negative press on its failures, but you could argue that carbon, the way we've done it, is just as bad, if not worse. So if we could figure out nuclear, keeping it safe, the longevity of it is incredible, and its capacity and what it can produce is incredible.
Yeah.
So,
but it's it's such flawed thinking, though, to think the carbon tax is going to hurt people, because the demand, the need for oil and gas, it is in every single thing that we do. It is in every plastic. It is in our cars, it's in our tires, it's in the things that make the roads, it's in everything that we do. That you can't, that's like trying to convince people that they no longer need clothes. Like, I'm going to incentivize you that I need clothes. Like if you're going to charge me more and more and more and more money for clothes, we're probably going to pay it or find other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's just knowing.
I'm trying to find this photo. If I can find it, it'd be so good if I could find it. I think I sent it to our chat. But essentially, it was a photo or a video time-lapse of Dubai from satellite. Maybe Paul can find it here. I don't have it here, but it was a satellite photo of Dubai saying, and it said at the top, the tragic shorelines of the rising sea levels and its demise on Dubai. And then it showed a time lapse of them building islands and palm leaves, and nothing nothing changed. Nothing. They just and so it's just showing essentially the sea level has not risen one inch at all. And this was a 60 or 50 year photo time lapse of the Dubai shoreline changing at such a rapid rate. But
should we get to Donald Trump and 25%? You good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's another spot I want to go to.
No,
I feel like we should chat through that. I'm trying to find the actual statement. Do you by chance have it there?
Well, before we go there, actually, sorry, I want to close a few details on this.
Yeah, go for it.
With the GST and the 5% and Parliament being frozen, these two things are massively connected, and it's important that everyone who's watching understands why. So Parliament has been frozen because the Conservatives are demanding documents from the Liberals that they're saying is from a green slush fund that is that there's major conflicts of interest. And so they've asked for the documents. The Liberals have sent in the documents, but they've redacted all of the details that are relevant in the document. So the Parliament is still frozen. And now when the Liberals bring in this 5% 250 check, in order for it to get passed, it has to get passed quickly and be brought into Parliament. So Parliament must start up again to get this passed. So it's kind of are the Liberals actually doing this to get this to the Canadians, or are they trying to stick it to the Conservatives so that the Conservatives, if the Conservatives don't, they can essentially demonize the Conservatives, saying, look, they don't even care about you Canadians. They don't want to get you guys the money. Meanwhile, they're saying, the Conservatives are saying, we care so much, we need to get to the bottom of this conflict of interest slush fund where this is horrible. We have to figure this out. So that's the two things in balance here that we got to figure out, and we need to keep a solid eye on it.
Yeah,
it's some slippery, bizarre stuff. The other thing I was going to say, maybe I'll say it now so we get back to it, but it's Canada Post is on strike still.
Yeah,
still. So we're coming up on I think 12 days or something.
We've
days.
actually seen with some of the people we deal with in television affecting them in their business from what they do. So
even if these checks get approved, they're not going to be.
Yeah.
Many people aren't going to get them. And there's 85,000 passports in the mail right now that are not being sent to anybody in holiday season. That's going to hit people hard. We're stepping into November, December. We're at the end of November.
How long have they been on strike for?
About 11 days now. 12 days.
Okay, guys, we're going to be moving to Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, incoming president, and the most recent. We've talked a lot about what's his relationship going to be like with Canada. What's a Trudeau-Trump relationship going to look like? I want to start off by reading. I brought up the statement here. This is what Donald J. Trump put out a couple days ago, or on November 25th. As everyone is aware, thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. Right now, a caravan coming from Mexico composed of thousands of people seem to be unstoppable in its quest to come through our country, our currently open border. On January 20th, as one of my many first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products. That is caps locks.
Wow.
All products coming into the United States. And its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such times as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop the invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use this power, and until such time that they do, it is time for them to pay a very big price.
Wow.
So, very interesting.
What is super interesting too is that even when I was listening to CTV talk about that today, luckily I read it myself, but they didn't say or posture it in a way that we had any say in it at all, that he was just going to punish us with a 25% tariff and that he's got more tariffs coming. They didn't say if we fix the immigration and illegal alien problem.
Yeah.
Like they didn't allude to that at all. So that's interesting. Well, it's important we read these things ourselves.
I think a couple of first thoughts I had was I actually think it's a little getting to know Donald Trump and his actions. He tends to come on heavy-handed,
and then
knowing because he's a negotiator. He's a business guy. Yeah, it's like me coming over the top saying just something huge, knowing I'm going to settle somewhere else. First off, I think it's ridiculous and unfair that he's lumping in Canada with the U.S. with Mexico.
Issue. Yeah,
like there is a legit. We both have border problems.
I think you're right, though. I think he's doing that. It's kind of like the classic parent thing.
Yeah.
If you make me get up, I'm gonna go. You know, and the parents like threatening, "Don't you make me."
There's got to be like a deeper thing he's wanting. Like, is he wanting to shake the boots of Trudeau and the Liberals? Is he wanting to shake up Canada and think, "Come on, guys!" Like
they know he puts his money where his mouth is, and they know that, and that's the greatest strength I think he has, is that he'll do what he says he's going to do, which I think is going to invite them to the table to negotiate. If our government ignores this, that says more about our government than it does the tariff. They have to go to the table, discuss this, and get into negotiations to figure out how not to have a 25% tariff.
Well, I'll play a reaction video from Justin Trudeau in just a moment.
Oh, I never even seen this.
Yeah, he put one out, and
let's see it.
He definitely looks worried. But just so like people understand what this means, Canada our biggest trade partner is the United States. We export goods into the United States. We want to continue doing that. If the United States, if there's going to be a tariff for United States importing Canadian goods, that's going to have less incentive for Americans and Americans to bring in products from Canada. Yeah. It's going to, which is going to hurt the Canadian economy. That's not a good situation to be in. And when you say in all products, that can go from milk and cheese and farming products and grain to oil and gas, natural gas, to different resources, to whatever it might be, steel, and it could go on and on.
It does go on and on, yeah.
So if that actually plays out, that is not good for us at all. So that's what a tariff is. That's why if you guys are watching and you're wondering what does that mean, these things have huge economic impact if they are put in place, especially over the long run with our country. So don't think because you're young or you're 22 or something, it's like, oh, I got the things that I need. No, you should be paying attention to these type of things, what's happening in the geopolitical world, because this will have an effect on your life. Even if you don't feel it right now because you don't have any dependents and you're single and you're young and you're just having fun, this stuff will impact you down the road, right? Like I remember thinking like that when I don't know if you felt
where you
like
just
that.
think it's like whatever.
Like 21, it's like all I care is I got my $500 in my account to hang with my buddies and we're good. But now that we're older and you're starting to think about long term and my kids' futures and all that, all this stuff is a big deal, right?
I know. Like I was driving to work we're about to fly out here or heading out to another province, and so I brought my kids with me. We're gonna head to the airport after and meet up with Tamara. But on the way to work, Sloan was asking me about work, and she was like, "Am I ever gonna do what you're gonna do, Dad?" And I went, "I'll do everything in my power to teach you everything I know, and the path you go down is up to you." And so I kind of went on a mini like dad speech and just said like, you know what's the single greatest thing you can do is read as many books as you possibly can and become such an expert at reading. And someone was like, oh, I know. I'm like, no, every person has all the resources at their fingertips and very few people actually learn, grow, try, devour, because you can take someone's life in a book and get all of it from one week's read and grab a next one and a next one and a next one. And, but it got me thinking, I'm going, what will they be able to step into in 10, 12 years? Like, I really don't know. Like there's not a lot of certainty stepping into the next 5, 10 years here as far as the strength of our country goes.
Yeah.
It's concerning. It really is.
For sure. Yeah. And what area do you want to direct them so that they can be
self-sustaining? That's what I mean.
And thrive and have...
In order, I feel, this is how I feel with the current state we're in. I feel their success is banking on my success. Banking. And what I mean by that is I feel like I'm going to have to springboard them into the future or they're just not going to have a shot. And that's, I feel like, is currently actually happening now. I think we have the lowest, I don't want to be too flagrant with my speech here, but I'm pretty sure we have some of the lowest purchasing of homes in the like 18 to like 25-year-old range right now, where we have the most people living with their parents, unable to buy their first home. We have some of the, like, we're seeing it. It's starting. This generation is not able to
well, it's like launch. The American dream or the Canadian dream has changed, right? It's no longer what it used to be. And that's very sad. But the thing is, just so you guys know, we moved the Titanic a little bit closer.
It's closer to the iceberg.
Closer to the iceberg. With this Trump announcement, because we don't have confidence in
there's
terms
a gap.
Of how we're going to handle it. I don't know if you can see
the gap, but there's a gap.
We can still do a massive pivot on this Titanic ship if we need to. But yeah, look at this chart, Jared. So this is the reaction of the Canadian dollar versus the US dollar upon the announcement of 25% potential tariffs coming from. So you can see a sharp drop. It's been flirting with the 71 cent to USD, and now it dropped approaching 70.
And that's essentially confidence. That's what that means.
Well, confidence, but also the buying power of the Canadian dollar. Yeah, it comes down to confidence too. But currencies, they always trade against each other in terms of the strength of what your economic power is. And this just shows the lower the Canadian dollar falls, everybody, this is what it means. When you see a low Canadian dollar, it means that we have low economic utility in the world. Our dollar does not go that far in other countries, right?
Yeah.
So for every dollar you spend in the States, you're actually spending about $1.30, $1.35 of your Canadian dollar. So it's just already 35% more expensive in the States.
And that's a 1% drop overnight.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's definitely moved. And there's other guys, like we've quoted Martin Peltier quite a bit here. chief investment officer for Altus and other stuff. He believes Canada's heading towards a 65-cent dollar, 60-cent dollar within the next year if we keep going the way we've been going. So he's hedging heavily on the US dollar. So that's something that's worth looking at. I wanted to read.
It's crazy.
Okay, so we talked about the implications a little bit. Hurts our economy. We expected this from Trump, right? You can't be mad at Trump. I'm going to show you this other guy I like. His name's Kirk Lubimov. He's actually from Calgary. Paul, we should have Kirk Lubimov on our show. Good dude. But look at this one here. It's just funny.
Yeah. Look at this dollar, man. Crazy.
Here we go.
Paul just sent a screenshot here. I'm not going to put it on screen. I'm just going to describe it. But in April 23rd, 2011, we were at over a $1.05. 105.
What year?
2011.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now we're down to 7. Here's 69.
Mass immigrated people without adequate background checks. Turned a blind eye to crime, money laundering, and booming drug trade. He's sticking a stick in his own tire. Falls and hurts his knee. It's Donald Trump's fault.
I love the internet for stuff like that. Eh? Like, gosh,
like, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
Trump doing that is not good for us. It sucks.
Of course.
But that's to be expected from him because he's a nationalist. He wants to make America strong. He's going to do what he needs to do to fulfill his promises, which is secure the border. We need to talk about, because we do have a border issue. It's not like as documented as the southern border, but we have obviously an immigration problem, but we also have a border problem with very weak borders. We'll have to figure out to get that border security guard on next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that'd be very, very cool
to chat it through, because there is a two-way street with our border that we have to be aware of as Canadians. It's not just a free walk down into the US from Canada, although that's happening. Have you seen these videos?
No.
I was doing some reaction videos earlier to this. There are these guys who are Indian guys that have come to Canada. It's I'm going to show you. It's not in English. These guys are advertising basically their illegal immigration services into the US.
You're not casting?
I'm not casting. Let's try it again. This is their social media advertising. It's like testimonials.
Can I phone it?
You should call it, actually.
Phone it?
Call it right now. Call the number right now.
I really want to see this. This is the funniest thing. I have no clue what we're going to get here. I'm going to be flagged for calling
No,
this.
let's see if it's real. 1-438-483-5669.
483-5669. 483 or 46?
1-438.
Yeah.
483.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
5669.
5669.
See what they could put your speaker. Put it up there.
The customer you are calling is unavailable at the moment. Please try again.
1-438-483-5669.
He probably changed his number because this is getting a lot of.
Yeah, just
or he's overwhelmed with phone calls. So the guy put translation. First translation: Akash has a very trustworthy and safe method to send illegals from Montreal to New York. Please contact him if you want to illegally enter from the U.S.
I just got flagged. I guarantee it. This guy's trying to smuggle people.
Yeah, well, we got
my phone number is associated now.
Close the start.
Here's another number. Try this one. So the testimonials of what I'm getting. So Trump is talking about this, and you going to try this one?
What's the number? Tell it to me.
628.
1628.
Yeah. 403.
403. Okay.
0582.
05.
Let's see what happens here. I'm so excited.
The number you have called
Yeah, of course.
I was so looking forward to it. I was going to say, hi, I'm looking
I hope these videos aren't fake.
For your services.
The point is, though, is that there's a two-way street with the Canadian border, because there's also a serious concern about our lack of border patrol of illegal immigrants in the U.S. who may potentially be deported, but they've got, to be honest, nothing to go home to where they came from because they left everything behind to flee and to get away. There's a serious chance that there could be a lot of people trying to get up into Canada as well.
Yeah.
So it is not just a Donald Trump as the father coming down on a teenager leader that says you need to make it for our sake. Actually, Canada needs to do it for our sake as well, so we have a secure border, because that is a serious issue. There are millions upon millions of people who've entered the States illegally who, under fear of having to be removed, will look to go to probably one of the most friendly immigration countries in the world.
And
right?
it's not radical to ask the neighboring countries next to you to secure their borders.
Yeah.
Like that's something that is turned into almost a virtue signaling thing. How dare you? But it's like, that's the idea of a border, is to be secure and to contain in and out, protect those in and stop those from coming out. Like that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Safety. So it's not nuts. It should already have happened. There shouldn't need to be a tariff to do this, but he's having to bolster down. So the U.S. has had failures in the past in not securing, Canada too, and like he's just saying enough.
But you have to realize, guys, it's to our benefit to put the investment and secure our border.
Yeah.
That is very important. That will benefit Canadians both ways. We've already seen what's happened in Canada with the rise of costs, with different culture clashes that we've had, with the mass immigration that we have had over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Well, if we now have a lot more people that are trying to get into Canada because of fear of deportation in the States, that's going to cause an even larger drain on our resources on what's going on in Canada that we can't sustain.
Totally.
So I thought it'd be good to show Pierre Poilievre's response. This actually just came out to Trump's tariffs. This came out like 30 minutes ago.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So here you guys go.
Trump yesterday made an unjustified threat of a 25% tariff on our already weak and shrinking economy. Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland were surprised. Amazingly, everyone else knew something like this could be coming because President Trump had been talking about it for years on the campaign trail. Yet 20 days ago, Chrystia Freeland said, "Don't worry, Canada will be fine." Apparently, neither she nor Justin Trudeau were following what the incoming president was saying. And now we must take account and we must be honest with our unprecedented weakness. After 9 years of Prime Minister Trudeau, our GDP is smaller than it was when he took off, per capita is smaller than it was when he took office. In fact, our per capita GDP has dropped more than any other G7 country since the year before COVID. We have the most indebted households. We've had the worst housing inflation. A quarter of our people are in poverty. 2 million people line up in food banks. Food prices have risen 37% faster in Canada than in the United States of America. Our economy is teetering on the brink of collapse. And now we face this renewed threat. We need a plan to put Canada first on the economy and on security. Justin Trudeau must put partisanship aside, not just for the sake of Team Canada, but for the sake of our people, and fully reverse his liberalization of drugs. Ban them, prosecute those who traffic in them, secure our borders against the illegal importation of fentanyl ingredients, put people in treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. That is necessary now more than ever. Look, President Trump has the right to put his workers and his nation's security first. I will put Canada's workers and Canada's security first. We need a prime minister with the strength and the smarts, the brains and the backbone to stand up for this country, to rebuild our security, our military, and our economy. Strength and the smarts.
He's talking with some serious conviction,
For sure.
There's also a solemn tone to his demeanor.
Yep. The thing too is, and I don't have any videos or anything ready for this, but like British Columbia has made it so simple for fentanyl to be out floating the streets and for people to be using that. And there's so many tight, close borders edging to the U.S. there. And so there's a lot of trafficking that's happening there. And that's coming from our government supplying the drugs. And that's the part that's crazy. So I imagine if there's probably a reason why we've been lumped together with the southern border, it might be because of that. BC is so close to the U.S. border, and there's so much drug use happening in BC because of legalization of and the handout of fentanyl. That we haven't tremendous problem there, and it's probably just flooding into the States. I don't have many stats to back that up, but I know a lot of people who live there and have been talking about it. So,
well, Trump is really, he's putting his money where his mouth is, right? In terms of trying to get a head start on his, he's already working and he's not in office. He's already creating changes.
Yep.
But for Canada, this is concerning. I appreciate Pierre's straightforward reacting. When I said he was on repeats, because he's really, he's using every opportunity to hit what has happened in Canada over the last 9 years. And I forget who said this. One of the guys I was reading last night was saying the best defense that we have right now, Canada has, and the most responsible thing for Canadians to do is to demand an election, because basically there is all-time low support for this party. There is, have you seen some of the polls?
Yes.
It is insane.
I never know what to think about polls, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but you can't, I don't think you can rely on them. You look at 2016 when Trump was in office and the polls were showing Hillary and all this.
Yeah.
But it is that lopsided. It's showing the Liberals dropping, I think, 100 seats or 95 seats. Insane. So even if half of that's true, that's a big swing.
It's nuts.
But the fact that you have all-time low support and 17% of the country support in the current government, and that's where you're at it just shows, you know what, for the best of Canadians, the best of our future, we need an election so that the citizens can speak as to who they want to be at the table for such a crucial time. As the Titanic moves closer to the iceberg, you want to have the right captain, and Canadians need a chance to redecide. And if it happens to be Trudeau again, so be it. If Canadians speak that way, if it's Pierre, if it's whoever it is, but when you have this much dissension in the country, you need to have a time to speak up again. Totally. And the power's in his hands to call an election.
Totally. Mind if I shift gears, or you got something there?
Well, I want to show you. Here's Trudeau. He's apparently had a phone call with Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
So here, I'm going to play this so you guys can see what he's saying.
Last night again, we obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
Has he said anything yet?
No. Things is that we be all pulling together on this. The Team Canada approach is what works. That's where, putting aside partisanship, that's where I reached out immediately to Doug Ford to agree with him that we would have a First Ministers meeting this week.
His Emergencies Act, buddy.
Talked with François Legault and some other premiers as well. There's work to do, but we know how to do it. Responsable.
He looks worried, man.
Yeah, he looks like he just got reprimanded by his mom and dad. You know what I mean? When comes out. We had a discussion. Things were discussed. We know how to go forward, and we're going to do that. We're going to go forward. Okay.
Time to put Team Canada first. Appreciate that.
In the few minutes we got left, there's a little bit of a sidebar, totally random. I woke up to this and I had to talk about it. I'm gonna screen share here because it's just
go for it. Are we moving on?
Yeah.
Okay. Keep an eye on that, guys. Though, as Jeremy's pulling us up, keep an eye on how that plays out. This is important. This is a big moment in Canadian. Will be a big moment in Canadian history as to how we handle this, because I don't think if it actually does go through the 25% tariff, that's going to be a hurt on our economy. It's going to be a hurt on you and I, and we want to make sure that we are positioning Canada the best way we can. So, all right, what's next?
Shifting gears, and I use that language on purpose because I'm talking about Formula One.
We're going to F1.
I woke up to this. It's 7 hours old. I'm a huge Formula One fan, and this isn't necessarily just about the idea of Formula One, but it's about what they just came out with. And so Formula One came out with a diversity and inclusion charter as of today. So their charter's purpose as a sport, Formula One is committing to creating and supporting and delivering on actions, measures, and outcomes to build more diverse and inclusive, to become a more inclusive sport. As a collective, including Formula One management, the FIA, which is the managing body of the Formula One, and the 10 Formula One teams, we recognize that our combined efforts can meaningfully and tangibly improve D&I outcomes across the sport, and we will continue to collaborate to maximize progress. So in the short 7 hours, so they're essentially saying we want to be more diverse, equitable, and inclusion, higher levels of inclusion. And like the whole audience, when I go through the comments, and I could read a few, they might be quite flagrant.
I love that.
You see that first comment?
Is this a sign Jaguars coming to F1?
We should talk about Jaguar. That's so funny. Is this a sign Jaguars coming to F1? Diversity and inclusion. There are a V10 engines protesting for their rights to do what they want us to.
Yeah, that's funny.
But essentially, people are saying like, this is a sport of competition to the highest level.
It is the ultimate test of merit when it comes to driving.
It's performance-based. That's the nature of sport. And actually, if you look at the grid of who is racing on these teams, it is extremely diverse. Every racers, it's from every country. In fact, it's one of the most favorite things is that when they go to Australia and Daniel Ricciardo is racing there and he's no longer racing, then all of a sudden Checo is in Mexico and everybody from their countries. Like there's so many people from around the world. But when it comes to engineers and people who are creating these engines and doing this, DEI, like what are we doing, guys? Like it's so bizarre that they're trying to do this, because even they're getting a lot of criticism about their electric engines and their push for electric engines and getting away from combustion to be safer, more responsible. But it's like they probably have the largest carbon footprint of any sport in the world because they fly from...
It's a traveling circus. Like 50 circuses all combined.
Massive.
And so their travel path isn't exactly efficient.
Oh, not even
right? It's not like, it's like
they'll fly from this city, like let's say Germany, over to Mexico, and then they'll fly back to Dubai and then back to the US and then
Azerbaijan
back, and like it's just
Montreal, and it's
just hilarious. And so, but it's like we're talking about a motor sport and they're trying to virtue signal, and that's the real problem.
That's what it is. There are too many studies coming out. Like I'm not sure if you saw this a couple of days ago, Walmart left the whole DEI thing.
They did.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They decided we're going to move on. There's been several companies, big companies, that are moving away because they're realizing it's just like we're in it for business. And like this is hurting their business.
Well, they're realizing what presidents is coming in.
Well, that too. That's going to be a shift as well.
That's
good. But I was reading a study 2 nights ago.
It's going to be taxed, I think, if you get into DEI.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I was reading a study 2 nights ago about companies and institutions that actually enforce DEI training, where they go through classes. So the first study was done by a group where they had about 367 participants, and out of the 367, they had half that were sat down in a class that had to do with DEI training in terms of looking through the lens of race and examining things that have happened with that. The other group sat down and they were taught about corn in farmers' fields, and just the most boring stuff you can think of. Then they all were brought into then they were brought into, after they were taught their quote unquote classes, then they were presented with a racially neutral situation that happened. One of them was a court case that didn't mention black, white, Latino, Asian, didn't mention anything about race. All it said was victim, person who caused it,
oppressor,
verdict, and this person was sentenced to whatever. So then they went back and they asked each person, why do you think this thing played out the way it did? There was no racial tones. There's nothing in the actual situation. So what the study found is the people that went to DEI training, they actually inflicted upon a racially neutral situation. They inflicted their racial lens, and they started saying it's because of this person was this color or because of this. They were inflicting racism upon a situation that had nothing. The people who went to the corn class just gave their opinion that had nothing to do with race. So they found this study. So they decided that's interesting. So these DEI classes are actually making people more racist.
Yeah.
like actually looking through that lens and inflicting this idea, this ideology. So then they made the study not from 300 people. They went to a different part of the country with 3,000 people, and they did the same thing. And the results were actually further, were grander than the one before, in the sense that essentially their conclusion is DEI training in classes actually train people to be more racist.
Yeah. Wow.
So there's a lot more studies supporting that are coming out now. But this is when you see companies going this direction, it's just like, first off, you're really late to the table. Like so many companies were doing this 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Now you're doing it. So now you're just late and you're dumb.
Well,
like,
and the thing that drives me nuts, and the reason why I just randomly decided to bring it up here is because exactly like you're saying, we need to stop putting so much focus on these things that have no fact-based evidence to show that they even work. And when you look at the comments and you just keep scrolling and scrolling, and there's thousands, it's only a 7-hour-old post. People are saying, can we just have the sport? Can you please leave the politics out? Let's just enjoy the sport. Stop it. Like, please just stop. Stop making. And the thing is the unfortunate thing about almost everything, and this goes for news, for sports, for advertising, it's all financially tied to making money. So it's all tied to money. So if the sponsors are pushing and are throwing their weight around in F1, well, the sponsors will get what the sponsors want. And I think that's what's actually happening here. Is I don't think it's F1's real decision here. I think it's the FIA's pressure financially of probably the sponsors. I'd be very curious if somebody did a deep dive of the greatest sponsors of F1 and see what they all stand for, and if they're actually pushing this along. And that's the real problem here is that they're pushing this in a sport, which is just let the sport be the sport. Gosh, we're ruining good things. We really are.
Yes, when you get this into every aspect of life, you're gonna. There's so many case studies. You look at Budweiser. You look at probably what Jaguar is going to go through. You look at these different companies. It's like, you guys, this is just not the place to do it. Do what you do well, and let's stop being crazy.
Yeah,
like.
Should we cover Jaguar real quick? There's a deep one.
You want to? I don't know if I want to.
Let's do it next episode, or maybe we'll do a separate one.
Okay.
Jaguar, for those of you we got some stuff coming about Jaguar. Gosh,
I want to show you something because I feel like these guys watched our show and it did something. I don't know if you guys remember last week, but we did a reaction video to Justin Trudeau's video about talking about immigration. Remember the video we did last week where he sat down at the chair? You'll see it here, where he goes, guys, there's been a lot of people coming into our country, and he talks it through. Well, Arpen Khanna, who's an MP out of Ontario, another guy, they did a dissection of the video. I feel like they got their stuff from watching Citizen.
Really?
I don't know if they actually did. I'm just saying this is David's opinion, but watch, this is so funny.
Immigration. Let's talk about it.
Actually, what we really need is to talk about how Justin Trudeau broke the immigration system.
That's what we talked about. Okay, let's keep going.
Last week, Justin Trudeau released a long video trying to explain why the fact that our immigration system is broken has absolutely nothing to do with him. We're here to set the record straight.
In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast, like baby boom fast. And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests.
Justin Trudeau has been in power for 9 years.
I love this set, man.
This might be news to him, but he is in charge of immigration. He appointed incompetent immigration ministers. He controls immigration programs. He controls immigration levels. And he has allowed bad actors to take advantage of his broken system.
Anyways, I thought it was funny. You guys should watch that. Shout out to those guys. That guy's from Calgary, hey? The second guy that was there, Tom Kimek.
Oh, really?
Anyways, Paul, maybe we get him on too. But I just thought it was funny because you and I were talking about this last week and went through. We didn't do it as nearly nice as they did with the whole shoot and making the video. But I was pretty proud of us going through that. I'm like, oh, there's other guys picking up on it. So.
Totally. No, I want to say thank you to everybody who's liking, following, subscribing. Make sure to keep commenting. We love to hear what you guys say. And again, always, well, that's weird, but I do. I love when people disagree because it shows where we've missed it, maybe misspoken, maybe we don't have all the facts and the details. And if you think that, please share your thoughts, comment, disagree, argue, whatever you need to do. That's fine. We want to hear about it. We want to talk it through. Also, make sure that you hit the bell notification when you subscribe so that we're going to be going live a lot more often. So we want you guys to join us for those lives so that you can be shout out. We did a few giveaways and we're going to continue to do things like that. So as well, shout out to YouTubers. If you're watching on YouTube, watching on television,
Jared and I love doing this. Thank you for helping us with some of our pet projects, a little passion that we have. And if it wasn't for you guys watching and hanging out with us, we probably wouldn't be doing it anymore. But we appreciate that. We believe the best is yet to come for Canada. So let's keep rocking.
Cheers. The show goes on.
The show goes on. See you guys next time.